Jarrell, Big Baby Miller, is making a lot of noise, but is he the real deal? I'm Teekosey, and this is with just 15 defeats. Teekosey here for another round of With Just 15 Defeats. In this show, we're going to be discussing Jarell Miller's next opponent. So, as usual, I want to hear from you. Leave your comments below about anything to do with this fight, anything about what I'm about to say. I also will have a poll, as usual, in the top right hand corner. It'd be fantastic if you can participate in this, because it always makes it more interesting when we discuss the fights back at a later date. So in the top right hand corner, just click on the button, the I button, and click yes, no. It will be as simple as that. So Jarell Miller is going to be fighting Nick Guivas this weekend. Jarell Miller is one of the young, exciting prospects that we have in the heavyweight division at the moment. He's one of the guys that is benefiting from the fact that the heavyweight championship has been fractured due to Tyson Fury. So a lot more guys are going to be getting opportunities over the next year. I'm not saying he's going to get an opportunity at a title fight, but he's one of these guys that has the potential to possibly get a shot, or at least get big fights that are going to interest us. So Jarell Miller, he's got 16 wins and 1 draw, no losses, 14 KOs. Now, what's slightly interesting about Jarell Miller is that he is a former kickboxer. He spent quite a bit of time as a pro kickboxer. He has fought UFC legend in Mirko Cop, and also a relatively well-known guy in Pat Barry. I believe that he lost the Crow Cop fight, but beat Pat Barry. I've watched a little bit of the kickboxing fights that are available. From what I saw, I wasn't particularly impressed with what I saw, to be honest. It was all quite messy. But anyway, he decided to go pro boxing, whereas just say Pat Barry, who he fought, went for the MMA route. And Jarell Miller is 27 years old, so he's still relatively young. For heavyweight boxer. We've seen a lot of guys turn pro quite late, and Jarell Miller's been a pro boxer since 2009. So even though he's a prospect, he's been a bit of a slow burn. If it's 2009, yep, 2009. So it's been in the pro boxing game since 2009. So we're talking about 7 years, and he's still a prospect. Definitely still a prospect. He hasn't stepped up his opponents to any great standard, to be perfectly honest. But who is Jarell Miller? He's 6'4", so he's a big guy. He's got a relatively big reach. But the concern and the alarm bells that ring with Jarell Miller is the weight. This is a strange one. Now, just looking at his record, he's weighed in at between 242, which is an average weight for a heavyweight these days, all the way up to 286. It's 44-pound difference, and so he has been quite large, quite out of shape, and you look at some of his fights, it seems to me, just looking at his record, that he kind of gets into shape, then he has a massive Christmas, eats all the Christmas food, loves it, but despite that, he has an early January fight where he's put on a load of weight. And this has happened a few times. Back in 2012, he fought Tyrone Gibson, weighed in at 242, his lightest. And then a month later, he weighed in his heaviest, 286. And a month he put on 44 pounds, which is pretty incredible. And he did a similar thing in 2014. He fought Rodrigo Ray, 262, and then a month later, Aaron Kinch at 281. So he put on 20 odd pounds in a month. And he seems to have done this relatively regularly, even if we look at what he did in 2015. Okay, 2015, he was active, fought 5 times. So Kinch 281, Ochien a couple of months later 283. Then a couple of months later, Damon McCreary, he dropped down in weight to 272. So he dropped 11 pounds, and then, no joke, couple of weeks later, he fought XL Holmes, and he dropped another 20 pounds, 255. 255. But then when he fought for the last time of the year against Muralimov, he piled on 30 pounds. Piled on 30 pounds for that fight. And to be honest, like, if you just go by records, he was going into a fight with a guy with one of the best records he'd come up against. So it's strange to piled on so much weight. But anyway, one fight in 2016, Donovan Dennis, 274 and a quarter, according to BoxRec. So it will definitely be interesting to see what sort of shape he comes in. Definitely, because he's quite a big guy. He is a big guy. He's big in every dimension. He seems to be a big guy. Now, when you compare him to, like, I did a video the other week about Andy Ruiz Jr., another guy who obviously has weight issues, whereas Andy Ruiz Jr. looks in terrible shape. He really looks terrible. Whereas I think Jarrell Miller, he kind of gets away with it because he's big all over. He's big all over, so he gets away with it a bit. But I think I would like to see Jarrell Miller back down to 250 max, to be perfectly honest. I think it will do him a world of good, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, as I said, he hasn't stepped up in class. The guy's not stepped up in class. But despite that, he's been calling people out. He's called out Wilder, Joshua, Stavern. There was an altercation at a gym with Stavern. He's calling these guys out. So he knows that that the big fights are they're in reach, and he knows that promotion's the name of the game. Promotion's the name of the game. You build a desire from the public to see something, and it's possible that it's going to happen. So he's not stupid. He's not stupid. But what can we expect from Jarrell Miller? As I said, he's a relatively big guy. He's a big puncher. He's a headhunter, but he's relatively slow. He's looking for the knockout, so knockout power in both hands, huge punches, with quite a range of punches available. And he's also quite light on his feet, but I don't think that seems to manifest itself in particularly good movement. He seems to be relatively light on his feet, and I think that's probably due to his kickboxing background, but it doesn't necessarily manifest itself in great movement, to be honest. And he has like a stalking style, as I say. He stalks his opponent, looking for the KO. But he's capable. He's capable. He's got a reasonable jab, and he's happy to fight at range or stay in the pocket and rough up the opponent. But what I have noticed about him is that he's incredibly easy to hit. He's incredibly easy to hit. Obviously, he hasn't been in the ring in a professional boxing sense with a concussive puncher yet. which is always the problem with these guys. It's always the problem with these guys, and I've noticed this, that for years and years we had the great Vladimir Klitschko, who, whilst he was knocked out early in his career, for the bulk of his championship legacy, he produced a style where he was difficult to hit. He smothered his opponent, he kept his opponent at range, he held his opponent, he did everything to reduce the impact coming his way, right? So he really, the defence was something he worked on, because he knew that he was probably susceptible to being knocked out. And to be honest, everyone can be knocked out. Everyone can be knocked out. So it's a good thing to have great defence. And the current fashion in heavyweight boxing seems to be that terrible defence. Terrible defence. And being easy to hit. Anthony Joshua is easy to hit. No head movement at all. Poor movement generally, and someone with good movement, quick hands, will be able to land gloves on Anthony Joshua. Our man in New Zealand, Joseph Parker, again, not particularly good defence. There's so many guys out there that have got poor defence, susceptible to being hit, and Jarrell Miller is definitely one of those guys. Now he may be one of these guys that has a cast iron chin, kind of like how we saw Stefan against Wilder last year. He took it, he was dropped, he got up, and he just kept going. Maybe Miller's the same. Maybe Miller's got a cast iron chin and he's going to be able to suck up punishment over the course of his career. But anyway, he's going in the ring with opponent Nick Guivas, who he's going to completely outweigh. Particularly, even if he comes in at 260, he's probably going to be outweighing his opponent by 40 pounds. So if he comes in more, it's going to be its size. Just from size, it's going to be a mismatch. From a height perspective as well, I believe he's quite a bit taller, so there's going to be a massive size differential. I saw something with Nick Guivas where he kind of implied that he's looking to outbox Miller with speed and movement, which is all well and good, and it's possible if you've got a great skill set and you're capable of doing that. From what I've seen of the tapes of Nick Guivas, he seems like a capable guy. He's got a 12-win, 3-defeat record, but he's 37. He's getting on, so he started late. He started late in his career. Hasn't really performed to any real extent. His two notable fights have both been defeats, and they've been stoppage defeats. So I wouldn't expect too much out of him. I think he might put up a good fight for 2-3 rounds. He might try and keep the movement, stay away from Jarrell Miller. But as I said, Jarrell Miller's going to stalk. Jarrell Miller's going to stalk him, and he's got the reach, the size, and if he gets in close, I think it's going to be a tough evening for Guivas, and I would predict that this is going to be a stoppage in the third round. I'm going for the third round in this one. I think it may last a few rounds, but I think Jarrell Miller will get a stoppage, and then he'll move on to someone hopefully that is a bit of a step up. Now, according to BoxRec, he's ranked 30, and he's only ranked 12th in the American ranking. So maybe it'd be good to see him fight one of the other guys. I know there was talk about him fighting fellow American Trevor Bryan. Yes, it might be a good fight, but we're going to see a young, undefeated prospect get defeated early on. Do we want to see that? I mean, I think possibly I'd rather let Jarrell Miller move ahead. I wouldn't mind seeing the Jarrell Miller versus Stefan fight, but Stefan, you got to think he's kind of he's still up there. He had that title briefly, and he lost it. He lost it. Sorry, he lost it, and he. So I think he's still an outsider. He might. I think he believes he probably deserves another shot. Whether he's going to get that shot, time will tell. But anyway, Savane's a good opposition for anyone really. But Jarell Miller, he needs to step up. Hopefully, we'll see him step up in the next in 2016. As I say, I think this is going to be a 3-round fight, and then we'll see him later in the year. Hopefully, he'll fight a fellow top 40 guy, and then move up into top 25 guy, maybe by the end of the year, and then we'll see. But as we know, the fact that Charles Martin, Dominic Brazil, they've got these opportunities. They've got these massive opportunities in the last year, so it's wide open. Someone like Jarell Miller, he's got the arrogance, the confidence. He likes to talk the talk. He could talk himself into one of these fights, and a lot of the promoters will think this is it. This guy, and I can see like someone like Eddie Hearn thinking, "Whoa, well, literally, this is good because this is going to be great promotion for the fight against Joshua if that was to come to fruition." But anyway, that's what I'm thinking about Jarell Miller. I think he's an interesting prospect. He does have faults and weaknesses, but he looks explosive and powerful, and I think he's going to be a match for a lot of guys in the division. So remember, take part in the poll, leave your comments below, and we'll see you in the next round.